Satori, good. Mushi suru. Mushi, good mushi. E mushi. Good ignoring. Good job. She's pretending she doesn't see you. Satori. There. Nice eyes. Oh, give you a peanut. Good attention. Don't pretend you don't like these. These are your favorite. Okay, let's go over to Tycho. Tycho kitty. Where's my son? Where he at? There he is. There he is. Da-da-da-dum. He walks like a little tiger in the night. And to cover all my wires. When I first got him, he was the size of my hand. And now he is the size of 2 hands. That's his carrying case. Oh, let me put it on the service dog here. She's traumatized right now because there are fireworks going on in Eva Beach as usual. There's usually drag racing or fireworks. It's a non-stop street festival up here in the 96706. That's why she didn't want to play with me at the park. I was like, that's weird, because I'm injured. So I fell roller skating on my tailbone, and I bruised my tailbone, and then I recently was just eating on Friday night, and then I apparently got food poisoning. And I don't know, who knows how I got it. I could have shared forks with the cat or shared forks with the dog. But I've been, sharing common stuff with the animals quite often. Definitely have tested it with the dog. But this is an entertaining little, I've set up little fitness things for the cat. He's grown so much. Like I said, he's like a little orange tabby. I wanted to give you an update on my family. My family. So I went to the emergency room. I called 911. I remember it's all surreal. It's all very surreal. I called 911 because my chest was numb. I remember my chest was numb and my hands were numb, and I was throwing up, and I needed to scream after I threw up. So it was like, like instead of, usually I cry, but this was like a wailing. And then, like, I don't remember wailing in pain or wailing, it was like fear. And then in Hawaii, our windows are always open. That's why we always wear shorts, and our windows are always open because it's hot, right? So everybody can hear you scream, unfortunately, right? If you have a crazy incident, close your windows. But so my liver here, but I throw up here, so I don't really know. I mean, when I vomit, I usually do cry, pee, and it's very painful. Cry and pee. Sometimes poop. If I'm food poisoned, like that happened to me. The worst before this was in Peru, where I had barely made it home by the gift of some little boy guide that saw me lost and fucked up. It still hurts to laugh. I have to keep my hand on my kidney. I had kidney stones when I was 20. That's the last time I remember I had like a BFF, like a best friend who would go to me with me to the hospital. That's the one that died. And I've been like waiting for a BFF to come along like that, but nobody really has. And so since then, since David died, I've pretty much lived in like feeling like I'm gonna die alone and nobody gives a shit. That's my internal, deep, wounding script. Nobody cares, nobody gives a shit, nobody cares, nobody gives a shit. I'm gonna die alone. Nobody cares, nobody gives a shit. And it's because it's so triggering, especially lately, because I've just gone no contact with my family and they are now doing their flapping of the feathers and they don't understand why. And my mom wrote me an email, "You are loved." My mom doesn't say "I love you." She'll say "Jesus loves you" or "You are loved" or something like that. But then the last time I talked to her, she was not religious anymore, and then she was meditating. But I don't even want to like go into any kind of spiritual discussion with my mom, really, because it can go south very quickly that way. So I have gone no contact with my family kind of like around the beginning of this year, and I don't even remember, because we've been low contact for a decade. So we've been low contact and occasional contact. It's just that I would feel like shit around the holidays around this time. So I don't know, all of this, let's see, I was supposed to be in Seattle right now celebrating my billboard, but I am in financial ruin, and not because of the hospital thing. I have medical insurance, thank goodness. I have wonderful Medicaid because the great things of being in the poverty mindset are I have wonderful food stamps, so I don't have to struggle for food here in Hawaii. I have enough to even pay for my dog and cat. Luckily they don't have any. My dog is very healthy so far. And my cat hasn't gotten its shots yet because I don't have money. But I wasn't able to sublet my apartment. I was supposed to sublet for 3 months and then go to Seattle. This is ending up being a ramble, but you know what? I am recovering from major injury, so I'm sorry, guys. What this is supposed to be about is how to prepare for an emergency. I had been working on blowing a whistle so that when I fell roller skating, which is I can this cats are clamorous. I can blow a whistle if I fall roller skating. A side note, he used to be able to fit inside this house, and now he can't. Anyways, I don't know. Emergency responder dogs are very special because it's a pretty chaotic scene, right? It's a bunch of firemen that are in your apartment. You're in a medical chaos. You're convulsing or whatever. But I guess that I am learning how to train my service dog based on what scenes come up in my life. I'm learning as I go. 'Cause I also don't have the money to work with a private trainer. I don't even have money to pay my rent. In fact, I was gonna have the subletter do that. So there's all these economic things that are sort of in the way. I'm really DIYing it, not because I want to, but because this is kind of the reality for a lot of service dog handlers who don't have $3,000 to go get a service dog, to go get a pre-trained service dog, or veterans who are not dismembered half of their body. They don't qualify for VA benefits. So it really is kind of a privileged privileged community that sort of gets access to these things, right? I mean, there is a really good online training course called My Servicedog and Me, and it's like as low as $50 a month, but that's something that I've gotten a lot of their free resources, and I'm going to do that in the future. But, you know, if you're not able to go, I wasn't able to go to London. I didn't even end up going. I mean, my artwork didn't even end up making it to the show. And then now I have a big billboard in Seattle. A big billboard, the biggest thing. Oh, cute. That was good cue. Good timing. Oh, look, you can see my cat in the back. Both my animals. There's all these little random toys for my cat. And then, meanwhile, I uncovered another narcissist in my life who was one of my clients pretending to be a codependent in narcissist clothing. So, kind of, that is super traumatic whenever you find that. So there's a bunch of trauma on top of trauma just happening. And so if you look at the kidney is all urinary, and then I don't even have a painful bladder infection. Whew. Like, I'm just sitting there eating, and then I'm throwing up and I'm screaming. It was, and then, the 911 operator was being really bitchy and telling me to say my name, my first and last name, and I'm telling her I'm so sick, I'm in so much pain. She's all, what? I can't hear you. And then, like, she asked me how old I was. Like, all of these questions, I just don't even think that this is important. Like, what's your name? What's your emergency? What's your address? You know, like, I'm sounding like I'm turning into a zombie on the 911 call. I'm going to get a copy of it because you have public access to all of your 911 calls. Even this conversation is stressing me out. No, I took one already. So I have ibuprofen 600, antibiotics, my normal stuff. Oh, this is to stop me from coughing. My antidepressant, which I took already, and Poke, because we're in Poke, and Poke, because we're in Hawaii. Can you still see my cat? How come you can't see? Oh. And Poke, because we be in Hawaii. Oh man. Here comes my kitty. I named my kitty Tycho because he was loud. Oh. Ay. Let's go all around. Loud. He'll make occasional appearances. I never had a cat before. But he fell out of a tree that I was cutting. And I decided to take him home as a training device for my service dog, and it's been working out really well. So we've been working on emergency responding, which was like blowing the whistle, and then she either comes and sits next to me, or comes and lays down with me. And like, if you have a service dog, then or if you have trained service dogs, you know that you have to go through each scene and rehearse each behavior like multiple times and mark each behavior and all of that stuff, right? Like, so I knew as soon as I got sick, really, that I couldn't be present to train her. She was trying to actually come up to me, and I was pushing her away because I was throwing up, and I just needed space, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't remember feeling a lot of pain, but I was screaming, and I was just thinking I was screaming because of some kind of PTSD, some kind of somatic reaction, like something had happened to me before, and I was screaming about it, you know, but I was like, like long screaming. I mean, it's funny because I remember screaming like that when I almost crashed, when I crashed in the freeway, when my tire blew out and I spun around and crashed in the freeway. And I walked out of my car unhurt. But I remember seeing the whole thing spin around and then poof. So long screaming like that. So the dog was probably pretty scared because I pushed her away, you know. I pushed her away and I'm throwing up. But I just, you know, like, I don't know what dogs think. You can't know, right? I don't know what they're supposed to do. But certainly when she's thrown up, I've definitely woken up in the middle of the night, made sure that she passed the entire thing. I was freaking out early on. She doesn't throw up as much now that she's a little older. I guess she's able to discern better what is good to eat or not. Where's my kitty? But yeah, I was trying to troubleshoot how to prepare my dog for emergency room work. I would have to get her used to if there's like lots of people in here. She's such a barker, you know, like she's such a you know, a reactive dog around. Like, I let dogs be dogs, you know? Like, if she's not working, she's able to bark. And, you know, when we go on freedom walks, which you see me do on my Instagram, she's not healing. She pretty much gets to do her own thing most of the time around me because it's mostly about reparenting unless I'm in public access. And so then the reparenting process happens in the training. And that's how I do it. But then for me to prepare for an ambulance ride, I don't ride ambulances on a rate. This is the first time, like I said, in 25 years. But I think it would be good just in case, you know, like how people have kind of an earthquake plan. Are you gonna jump? This mule is so smart. You can get anyone. So funny, he makes like noise whenever he poops and stuff. You want to get down. He doesn't like to be in the lap, and neither does the turkey. They are both not lap animals. You would have to, I don't know if anybody else has a service dog who's an emergency responder. Like, people who have seizures often have to deal with EMT, right? So the seizure dog stays on the person. Do not separate dog from handler. So is able to, I guess, how you would train that dog is to be holding them in a fake seizure and then have lights, disco lights and loud and lots of people, you know. That's the kind of advanced kind of training where you need lots of other people, kind of the way that they do with the sport dog type of things, where you gotta train in sessions and work with many people. I tried to do some stuff with like carjacking to teach my dog about, like, I want her to actually ow you know, guard the car, because when she is in the car, the windows are open and her job is to guard the car. And then you have to non-verbally communicate with your dog, because full sentences are a waste of time. So I'm like, rah, 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 rah. Like, I know what her intruder bark is, and then I imitate her intruder bark, and then I'm like, if someone comes, this is what you do, right? Oh my god. I'm feeling like this is a... Oh, anyway, so I'm like screaming, right? And then I just decide to not take her. So in the ER, because it's going to be like, your dog is basically medical equipment. So why would you need, you know, emergency medical equipment if you're going into an ambulance? You have everything. Your dog is a replacement for, you know, not having a doctor there, not having, you know, a defibrillator there. So unless they are the first responder before the EMT, right? But I really certainly could have used comfort in the ambulance, but I can self-soothe, because it wouldn't be self-soothing for me, because my whole service dog's journey is about reparenting. I would have to parent her while I'm in my emergency, which is like I was not able to do it. Like, she kept coming up to me and I was pushing her away and throwing up and stuff, and I just didn't want it. I just don't want anybody around me when I'm like turning into a zombie. Even in the ER, when they had me in taking vital signs, like the pulse thing triggered me. I felt like I was being strangled at the arm. It was really weird. Like, it was all, and then that made me nauseous and made me want to throw up. And I only threw up a little bit of bile, but that threw up hurt. It hurt, and I was like screaming. So that echoed throughout the whole ER. And then when they took me out in the gurney and with no pants on, that echoed out throughout the whole apartment complex. So it's just like a lot of chaos that, like, I don't know that, service dogs don't operate in chaos. And if they do operate in chaos, they focus on one task, like finding a bomb or finding, drugs. And it's not like war-ass chaos. Like, if they do have war dogs, they usually send dogs. They don't obviously send dogs in to fight wars. They send them after wars to find cadavers and to find things like that. So it's like, to know what the limits of your dog is. And for me at that time, I felt like happy with how it went down, because I asked just because I wanted to see, can I take my dog? But because she was already like jumping and being excited with all these guys in there, like, of course she doesn't look like a service dog, because she's not trained to deal with any of this stuff, right? And she wasn't near me and she wasn't calm. Like, usually when EMT come in and your dog is on you, then they know that it's a calm dog, it's a service dog. But my dog was all over the place. But I didn't want, my dog near me while I couldn't predict where I was going to be and how it was going to be. And I just needed space, right? So when that happens, I guess you just decide to let, the professional humans take over. I think it's okay at that point. I think your dog is a luxury at that point. Unless, at the point where, to have both, right? And then, the things that I had to do are places that dogs are not even allowed anyway. No dogs are allowed. No service dogs, like getting a CAT scan, and an ultrasound, like sterile environments, sterile rooms that they don't have animals enter. So I have already read about this to troubleshoot how I could have done this differently. I can take her by more fire stations and see if she will do a sit. But like I said, I think that could be a project, just slowly working on that. Today we worked on, I blew the whistle a couple times. It still needs a lot of practice. So again, she's not ready to be an emergency responder dog. And what I felt was, like, if I got admitted for surgery, then I would request to have her come in, and she would be able to accompany me to surgery. And after, because it's a calm environment in a hospital, but like, if you're having to go to all these tests, to different rooms, who's gonna walk your dog, who's gonna, I guess they put the dog inside the gurney with you, I think. I don't know. They were not very nice to me. They threw me in the truck, and my head hit, and I was like, I was like screaming and stuff, and all of the EMT were like making fun of me because I'm mentally ill, and I was screaming. They're like, the one woman who's supposed to be my ally, of course she's not. She's like, I'm glad you have this one. And then the 911 operator was also a woman, and she was like, the last thing I said before I flipped out, she was like, how old are you? And I'm all 40. Like, I couldn't even say the sentence. What did I say? I went 40. tries to like climb my face, and I'm like, no, you cannot climb my face. So, the question that I answered in my research was, do you need to take your service dog in the ambulance and the ER? Especially in the ER, because you're doing a lot of traveling, there's a lot of, there's COVID in there, animals get COVID. There's a whole zoo in Hawaii that all the tigers got COVID from a human. So animals do get COVID. So why would you expose your animal to an ER where there's possible COVID or other infectious? And that's the first. Is there another thing that animals can get from humans? I don't know. If there's anything cross transmission. But COVID was invented from an animal, so that's what makes it dangerous. There's my ankles. Oh my gosh. All scratched up because of this cat. I have welt all over. But what I use for my welt, CBD oil, and then the inflammation goes down instantly. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you can relate or you have had an emergency room experience with your dog. Yeah, you can hear that car, right? So can you imagine if someone's like throwing up, they can hear it. If someone's screaming and throwing up. But luckily, and then I walk my dog around, and that's like the walk of shame. But I couldn't even walk for a whole day after the ER. I couldn't go back to the emergency room because I was exhausted. I thought I was just dysregulated again, and I was like, but this is so weird because I would just recovered from my last dysregulation, and then I was just eating, and I wasn't stressed out, and then I just started throwing up. It was really weird. I threw up, and then I threw up again, and then I'm screaming. So I didn't know what it was, but then my side hurt, and it still hurts now. And I had fever symptoms and stuff, so I think the anxiety and fear, makes things a lot worse. So it's a combined PTSD and food poisoning and kidney infection. Lovely. So I think that the ER is like the operating room. Are you going to take your service dog in the operating room? No, you're not. They're not going to let that happen anyway. But, for example, hypothetically, the doctor is the main alpha at that point, right? Did my update. Thanks for watching.